So it looks like we are now streaming live on Facebook. Good morning, everybody. It's Liz Kitchell with Shimula.
And Dawn Parks as well. I am looking to get into this as well, see how it's going. Oh, there, now I see us. That's terrific.
Yay!
Yay.
So we are very new about, streaming stuff live onto Facebook from Zoom. But, we're learning something new and different every day, and we love it. I don't know about you. Technology is technology, and it allows us to do so much. It's very exciting.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Learn new things, right?
Well, and you know what? If anybody has comments who can help us figure this out, we are more than open to having people share their ideas with us, because that, because Liz, that's one of the really big things about the Great Resignation is, it's one thing if you have this product concept or maybe you want to be a consultant or you want to do coaching, but if you don't understand how to navigate all the social media or technology or how to create an email list, I'm going to cough, sorry, or how to create an email list or how to get information out, yet really you need to make sure you have a team that can support you in creating the Great Resignation. That's so important, right?
Well, and it's really funny, and you have coworkers that help you sometimes and not. So I don't know if you can hear this, but I have a cat that is begging to join the conversation. So she will probably jump up here any second.
Okay.
But it is what it is. Come here. You might as well just come up.
Well, and that is the one big thing that's been happening with all of the, what are we in with COVID, is we have to kind of deal with all of the
place disruptions,
cats and dogs and fire trucks and telephones ringing and kids who need your help and things like that. I'm going to check here for a moment, make sure that I can see the chat. Because right now I don't see the chat.
So in the meantime, while John's checking that out, I'll go ahead and talk a little bit about the Great Resignation. So what is the Great Resignation? There's always been a period of time or, people who leave the corporate world between, let's say, 45 and 60. They kind of get this idea of, oh gosh, is this all that is? And they go out on this big quest to kind of add some purpose or North Star to their life or bring about their own North Star. So that's purpose, and that is kind of like a guidance, a guidepost that you have in your life. The thing that we find so important in these conversations about the, finding your North Star and stuff like that is you don't have to necessarily shake up your whole life and start over. You don't have to say, okay, I'm throwing out my life and I'm starting over. It's about creating room for a yes and conversation. It is okay to go after your North Star and still support the North Star of other people that are important to you, like your spouse or your children. It's not an either or conversation, but we often find with Shimula, many of our clients have said, oh gosh, I'm wondering if I have enough time and money to do what I want to do because I feel like I'm supporting everybody else in theirs. This is so true for me as a nurturer that this is my life story. I was so busy cheering other people on. I was helping other people create their North Stars, their purpose, their missions. But I wasn't always doing it for myself. So that is true for me. Now there's different personalities that go about it differently that might jump and leap to create something new and exciting. But for me, it was, you know what, there's not enough time and money for all of us. So I'll go ahead and sacrifice mine. But that's not true. It's just totally not true. So there's a little bit of information about the Great Resignation from my perspective kind of played out in the last couple of years. So Dawn, what about you?
Well, for me, I've always been the builder of big things for other people. So I can really see the complicated nature of how people work together. I know how to be a big picture thinker and then how to connect the dots so that the work can actually get done. And then I'm fortunate in that I can also see some of the leadership and management issues that show up in addition to the doing of the work that has to get done. But it's really different when it's somebody else's dime. It's different when you're working inside of a company who's got a big idea and they're taking the bulk of the risk. It's, they're the ones that have the money. They can choose to not go forward. They can add more people. They can rearrange resources, because when they're up to something that's like a $10 million impact, I've worked in refining, I've worked in forestry, I've worked in a lot of consulting areas. And when they are taking the risk, it's so much easier. But when you go out on your own, like we did, we are the ones taking the risk. We are the ones that had to think about what are all the resources that are needed and how do we get them and how much are we willing to pay ourselves and each other and other resources, social media folks or somebody to create the class, the platform like Kajabi where we put our courses. Who's the one who pays for that? How does that get done? And it's really different than when you're inside an established culture. And that's really why I think this conversation is so critical. We want women who are ready to make the change, but to go into it with eyes wide open, not necessarily in a dream state where it's like hope, but dream with some solid goals and milestones so you can actually build a strategy around it. I mean, that's some of the biggest things that I got in our own journey so far.
Absolutely. That is so important, Dawn. And you know what? A lot of people, because they haven't necessarily aligned the resources with the strategy, they're working with regards to, oh gosh, I need this before I launch my business.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, they often run out of time and money or resources before that, they have some success. And that's so important to really kind of draw out what it is you're looking to do and build that roadmap and the milestones of how you're going to get there.
Yeah, I remember last night, so for those of you folks who are just joining, we gathered with a group of people who have been traveling the journey with us over the past, couple of years. And we were talking about social media. And a lot of people, a year ago, 18 months ago, social media was a really good platform, understandable platform to be able to do a lot of your marketing. I mean, because no one was going outside. We didn't get to go to networking events anymore. There weren't any conferences to go to. There wasn't a place where you could go and shake somebody's hand and tell them about the business or the resource that was, whatever it is, this thing that you're selling, the impact that you want to make in the world. And now everybody is on Facebook. Everybody is on LinkedIn. Well, not everybody's on LinkedIn, but a lot of people are on LinkedIn and everybody's selling their stuff. And how do you know what's good quality stuff? How do you know if you're going to get the value? Some stuff is free. Some stuff is, a couple $1,000s. And I think the big takeaway though last night was, I think it was Cheryl who said, the house always wins. So like if you're playing poker or if you're going to Vegas, the house always wins. Every now and then you might win a hand. But if you're going to go out on your own, you've got to figure out a way to cut through the noise of Facebook, because Facebook always wins. Facebook is not designed for us to win or you to win. It's just going to keep doing its thing. And one of the things that's so critical, if you're going to go out and join this great resignation, and it's sounding like, I'm not trying to sound negative, but you have to really think about how do you get the word out?
Right.
You've got to make sure that you're willing to do what it takes to get the no's from people, to get the yeses from people, to be curious about how do you kind of cut through the noise. And I think that was another big learning for us in how do you break through? How do you get the eyeballs on what you're doing when people say it's a great idea, but it doesn't, at first you've got to figure out how to get the traction. So that's important. It's an important part of thinking through the great resignation.
Yeah. There's all these algorithms out there and they change, right? They do, they change. So, there's different avenues that have to be approached with regards to getting the word out. Mm-hmm. And then how can you do that as just one person? There's only so many touches you can do. So it's about getting creative.
Yeah. Right. And, when you think about when you think about the Great Resignation, and I know I say that a lot, but I say the term a lot in case as people join the conversation or are listening to a replay of the video. I think what's really important is it's still about planning, right? What skills do you bring to the table now? There's this thing that you want to build. There's this business concept that you want to go out and impact the world with. I mean, otherwise, why would you do this, right?
Right.
You're not, I mean, you want to think about what skills do I bring and where are the gaps? And that's an important conversation that we have in our programs, is to understand, what do I know how to do and what do I not know how to do? And one of the things that we find is people get focused on doing the things that they don't know how to do. Oh, I need a logo right now. Well, maybe you don't need a logo yet. You will need a logo, but maybe you need to make sure there's people who want your product. Let's figure out how we can test the waters to make sure people want this thing that you're selling. Right? Let's make sure that other people want to participate in your goals and dreams. Then we'll go work on the stuff that you don't know how to do.
Yeah. And that's when people often run out of resources, is focusing on what they don't know how to do first, learning that, outsourcing and everything else, versus focusing on what they know how to do and creating kind of the language that people resonate with that gets them to purchase.
Mm-hmm. Well, the thing is, it's exhausting too. It's exhausting when you're focusing on the things that you don't know how to do, instead of focusing on what you do know how to do and making sure you build that out. So that's one of the things we love to do, is to help people build out the thing that they actually know, right? And support them in getting resources that they might need. Yeah.
So important. Yeah. So the Great Resignation, we're starting to see a lot of people leaving the corporate world. God, I don't even know the numbers right now. I had them in my head not too long ago. But in December alone, there was a number bigger than ever before that left the corporate world for whatever reason, right? And it could have been that they needed flexibility to be able to be there for their family and be there for their job and their career and their income. It could have been, they have a calling that they're jumping towards. So there's a lot of different things going on right now that's causing this Great Resignation. And the last 2 years have given people clarity that's made them go, what is really important to me? And how do I create more of that?
Right. And when I was reading an article today about that was really designed for the leaders of organizations, but it really helps me to think about people who are thinking about the jump. Do you need a hybrid of some sort? Why, like if you really want to dig down on why you want to leave, is it because you're not getting paid enough? Right? Or is it that you're not being respected? Or is it that you really need a hybrid of some sort, where you want to be able to work at home and go to work in the office? Is it a childcare issue? And if you think that jumping will create the solution to whatever that is, that's great. But let's make sure you've planned how that goes. Because if it's a childcare issue and now you're at home trying to build a business and you've got 3 kids running around in the background, it may have an impact that you hadn't suspected. So we just want to make sure you've thought through those things, because there are more and more people that are leaving. Maybe you can ask for a raise. We don't want to talk people in. I think that's important, Liz, that people realize we're not trying to talk people into resigning, and we're not trying to talk people out of resigning. Right. Some people are really good at just making the jump and I'm going to figure it out. But if you have a lot of people that are in your life that are relying on you for certain things, it's important to think through, what do I actually need to be successful? So let's talk about childcare for a minute, Liz. I mean, you have a kid at home. He's in high school, right? But talk a little bit about how trying to build a business at home and having a high school kid. What is that like for you, and what kind of distractions are there, and how is it awesome?
There's many things that make it awesome. when I was in the corporate world, though, I traveled 75% of the time. So I felt guilty that I wasn't at home, kind of being there for my son and my daughter, right? So when I, left in 2015 in the fall, I was like, oh, I have that flexibility now to be there for them. And I kind of, um, it's not that I forgot that I was building a business, but I got really distracted about creating this support system for the children that I had never really had before. And that, yes, I can be here. And yes, I can cheer you on. And yes, I can do this. And I would love to go to your school play. I would love to go to your swim meet. I would love to do all these things, right? Because I didn't always get the chance to do that before. And then I realized, oh my gosh, I don't make any money doing that. Right. And my household, my household depends on my income. So, I had to kind of get clear and create this conversation of what is important and figure out those big rocks in my life and make room and space and time on my calendar for those big rocks. And I also
Mm-hmm.
needed to know the word no, because as a nurturer and as a 9 in the Enneagram, I am all about other people's agendas. Um, and I had to get to the point of, wait a minute, how are they going to be able to be their biggest cheerleaders later in life if I'm the one creating the pathways and the doorways for them? So, yeah, that was probably a little bit more information than needed, but I think that resonates with a lot of moms out there. No matter what your primary personality type is, there's still every person out there has a little bit of that nurture inside of them. If you're a mom, if you're a dad, because you want the best for your kids, but
Mm-hmm.
you also want them to feel like they themselves can be empowered. Um, but it's a mind of like doing that in the container in which that's important, and then also getting really clear on the vision of the business and what success looks like and why it's so important, so you can get the children on board, you can get the spouse on board of what it is that you're building, because when they're
Yeah.
used to having you around for that first year, I bent over backwards to make sure they knew I was here for them. And then I was like, oh, wait, I also have this big vision over here that I'm doing, and getting them
Mm-hmm.
on board of this is what I'm doing and this is why I'm doing it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because when we first were launching, and we had to talk to our families about, hey, look, we're going to create this business that's going to produce in our intention is we're going to produce X millions of dollars in revenue each year in these classes, right? We're going to do classes and we're going to do conferences, and you don't just you don't get to run to every you don't well sometimes you can, but you have to kind of be real about how much time can I commit to going to the games and going to the plays and helping with homework when you're trying to build, a 7-figure environment, right? Or even a 6-figure environment. And some of you might be looking at creating, just like a 5-figure environment. You just want to cover your current salary. And all of that is fine, but you have to really think about, are you doing it for the freedom and flexibility, or are you doing it to prepare for retirement or to prepare for some other kind of future? And you got to engage your family. They have to really be enrolled, otherwise they're going to have to carry the bulk of the financial burden, right, until
Mm-hmm.
you get this thing up and running. And which has been very exciting for us to work to do it for ourselves and to support other women. And the other women in our programs have been very successful. We've got men in there too, you guys. Just want to make sure you know that. But we've got one of the guys now that's made a big pivot, and he's looking at buying coffee shops from what he was doing before. And another
Mm-hmm.
person who's a lawyer, she now sees 5 different income streams that she hadn't seen before, because she was very much in a role of, I have to charge by the minute. I don't know how to do anything else. But in working with them, they got to see that they didn't have to totally disrupt their lives. They could take on something new and create these new income streams that gave them so much more freedom and flexibility and let them love their lives. I
Yes.
think that's the important thing. It's still about, you got to love your life. If you don't love
Mm-hmm.
your life and you jump and you quit, hoping that the quitting will have you love your life,
Doesn't
look.
work.
It doesn't always work. It doesn't
No.
always work. So,
And then if you are in, partnered or married and they're not buying into the mission, or you haven't really bought into the mission, eventually resentment will kick in, right?
yeah. Yeah. So today, Liz, we've been kind of going all over the place on the concepts, which is great. I think it's stuff that everybody needs to hear, and we'll put a little recap in the box. But anybody can take a look at this video. It'll continue to stay up on the website, and we'll put it on or up on this Facebook site, and we'll keep it up and share it in all of our platforms. But I think what's really what I'm hearing and what you're saying, because in the going all over the place, what I want people to be left with, you guys can tell this is live, right? And we don't have a script. I'm guessing you're anybody who's watching this. But this whole idea though of we can't stress it enough about, you don't have to blow up your life, right? You don't have to blow up your life. You just have to get clear on what you want and what would satisfy you.
Mm-hmm.
Is it money? Is it about having the flexibility to go to your kids' plays? Is it, is there some, I think what was leading me to this whole thing was, so I apologize for kind of rambling, was I was thinking about the imposter syndrome. So you make this big jump and then you start to question and doubt whether or not you can do it because you've never done it before. So then you start to think, do I have to go back to corporate? What do I have to do? How does all this work? That's another thing that you have to deal with when you take on a new business, when you take on anything in your life.
And that's a great opportunity, Dawn. Imposter syndrome even comes up for some of our clients are making huge leaps in their businesses, doubling their incomes within a year. And a lot of them do have a imposter syndrome pop up, right? And when that happens, it really is an opportunity for clarity of the what and the why you are building. It's so easy to sit there and say, oh my gosh, this competition or this is going to, stop me from being successful. But it really is an opportunity to drill in, hone in on the what you're building and why is that important to you. Because if you can do that, right, then you don't have to worry about what your competition is doing. You don't have to worry about, do you close that next one client, right? Because there's other people that are coming towards you to build this mission and to build it. So, I was listening to an interview of Abby Wambach, and she was talking about how there's been many people along the way that have inspired her. And she talks about Ava DuPrunay and how she was so busy building her own house. It wasn't about breaking the glass ceiling in Hollywood. It was about, she was focusing on her own house. She didn't worry about what anybody else was doing. And the drama from our past often comes up to show, oh my gosh, I can't do this, imposter syndrome, any of that other stuff. But it also reminds us of how important it is to visit your what and your why, because that's what's going to draw you forward when the drama shows up.
Right. Because motivation lasts 2 weeks.
Right.
We've said this before. Motivation lasts 2 weeks. Oh my gosh, Pumpkin, look at you.
She wants to be a part of the conversation.
And so you have to have something bigger that keeps you moving forward. And you also need infrastructure.
Yeah.
You can't count on a dream being the thing that pulls you forward. The dream gets you motivated to do some things, but you have to have some infrastructure because the world isn't organized quite yet for you to be successful. So what are the daily activities that you need to be thinking about? What are, even Dorothy knew that if she stood at the end of the yellow brick road, she couldn't dream herself to Oz and the wizard. She had to actually take the steps and encounter the lion and the tiger and the scarecrow and those blue flying monkeys and the wicked witch, right? And all of those soldiers. She couldn't just stand on the edge of the road and hope that she would find it. You actually have to begin to take the steps and get curious about what are you going to find and what do you believe in? What do you think is at the end of the road? And what's important to remember that it's not, the wizard isn't what was at the end of the road for her. That was that was still part of the road. It was still her belief that she could go home. Mm. She believed she could go home. She could see it. She could see Auntie M. She could see everybody. She could see her house. She could see where she wanted to be more than anything in the world. And she just knew the wizard was going to make it happen. So you have to believe in what you're doing. You have to really believe it in your heart, in your soul, because when those flying monkeys come around, they can easily scare you off the path. Right? Now, Dorothy didn't have very many paths, but you have a lot of paths. You have a lot of paths. You can go back to work. You can go another direction, but you have to believe. You have to truly believe in order for this.
There's always crossroads, but if you're clear, you can have the vision, know where you're going, and continuously take steps in those activities. Yeah.
Right. So Liz, today we're going to jump off 4 minutes early because we have a class that we're teaching. We have a program called Money Master Plan Mastermind. And this is an ongoing program. It's an online do-it-yourself set of videos that helps you create your 5-year strategy, and you create what you know how to do and what you don't know how to do so that you have a 1-year action plan. And you do this in the space of 4 months. And people are constantly rolling into the program because we meet on a weekly basis to share what you're learning about your strategy. We share strategic ideas. We talk about your marketing. We talk about all of the things that are related to the plan that you are creating. And you get a lot of input from the other folks that are in the community, because Liz and I don't have all the answers, but a lot of the people in the community provide great insights. So we're going to jump over there to that course. But we've put into the chat, you can look at our courses at shimula.com. You can email us at shimula@gmail.com. And we'd love to chat. Just let us know and send us your questions on this particular website, on Facebook. You can put comments in about what else do you want to know about, the Great Resignation. Let's give it a shout, see what's going on. So We'll see you guys tomorrow. 11 o'clock, Wednesday, November 3rd, and all this week. Bye, everybody.
Bye.